Chad Kelly, Toronto Argonauts quarterback and Grey Cup champion. Of course, he came off the bench to lead the Argos to the Grey Cup last year. Good morning, Chad. How are we doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I appreciate you guys having me on.
We appreciate you coming on. So, yeah, only unbeaten team in the league, best team in Toronto right now. What's it feel like to be riding the waves with the Argonauts this year?
Yeah, it feels good. We know it's still early in the season. It's a long season. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So we just got to keep on working hard every single day. We can't let off the gas and understand it's going to take a lot of hard work still.
Some validation, though, in that victory over BC, because that's kind of the case every year. Like, we're not really sure what we're getting with an Argos team. There's usually some action in free agency. They're bringing guys in. Maybe there's a little bit more turnover in this city and with the Argonauts overall. But a good and talented BC team that was pretty good themselves, coming in undefeated. Some validation in beating another good team and a team that in a game that a lot of people had circled on the calendar.
Yeah, I mean, we knew going into the game it was going to be a tough game. BC's obviously well coached. They have a ton of veterans back there. That D-line is a very solid group. I think that our guys knew this was going to be a tough test, and every single day they came prepared at practice. We put in a ton of time off the field together and watching plenty of film day in and day out, and guys knew the magnitude of this game, right? Guys wanted to show out that, hey, we are really good and we stand on that ground. And, being at home, it gives us a little bit more energy. And, I thought our guys really, really responded well after that punt return for a touchdown. So, it was just a overall great day.
Does the team feel like a added level of pressure or power in being defending champs? Obviously, a lot of eyes on you guys this year, and a real energy, I think, surrounding the Argos. How do you balance that pressure and also power in that position of being the defending champs?
Yeah, knowing people are going to be gunning for us, we're going to get everybody's best. I just think that this year's team is a little different than last year. Guys are willing to put in, as much work as they have to. They're going to live by it on and off the field. It takes a lot of people to buy in to, getting better each and every snap, each and every day. So I think from, walking into the building, guys are staying late, they're focused, and that's all you can have is a bunch of grown men that are focused and ready to get better.
So I mentioned off the top there, you were thrust into the Grey Cup last year, playing behind McLeod Bethel Thompson. You lead the Argonauts to a victory, and it's the type of moment that could, really change your life, right? Because I'm not sure what your plans were. I'm not sure if you believed you were going to be a starter this season, last year at that point, but you prove it on that stage, and windows and doors open up to you in terms of your life and where you're going here with your career. So when you look back on that moment, did it reroute you? Did it change the plans? Did it change your expectations? Did it solidify you as, hey, I'm going to be a CFLer here moving forward? What did that do for your career? And I guess your mindset and what you knew about what you were as an athlete and where you were headed.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point. I think that right there kind of summed up the season, right? I wasn't able to really, be out there with the guys every single snap doing exactly what I wanted to do. But in the biggest stage, something wild, crazy like that happened, and you're like, hey, I got to go in there and do what I was taught to do my whole life, but not really understanding the magnitude of the game, right? You're not from up here. You obviously know the Grey Cup. You understand everything, but until you're in the game situation, you're like, man, this is the biggest thing that Canada has, and I'd say the second biggest thing in the country, right, or in the world behind the NFL, right? So I think this is just something that I was prepared to do. I was so focused, obviously, this whole season. I think that just waiting on my time and understanding how Mac went about things and how I just had to go in and kind of just pretend like nothing even happened, right? So. I think that's one thing that obviously getting to the game and transpiring. But, I think, after all that transpired, I'm like, man, I definitely feel like I've shown that I can belong in the biggest stage. So, I feel like I'm destined to have a chance. Right. And, I thank the good Lord that all these things happen to me. And, I go through trials and tribulations like we all do, plenty of ups and downs. But it's like, how how can you get better? How can you be a better person, a better man, a better teammate each and every day? And that's kind of what my mindset going through this whole off season is how can I be mentally more prepared than I've ever been, right? I've never been in a situation where I'm leading a Fortune 500 company, and especially, you know, how big Toronto is. This is all eyes on deck, right? So that's kind of how I approach this off season. Obviously, I stayed up here, I worked hard, and got with the coaches, and I think they just believed in me, you know, showing what I did in practice last year, and obviously going in through the Grey Cup and being dedicated to this team.
So you just laid it out, big responsibility here. But you, as you mentioned, you know, you're kind of learning on the fly. You're learning a different brand of the game that you've been playing your whole life. So when you are talking about on the field stuff, what's the biggest challenge for you? Like, what are you still adjusting to? What are you still working on? How are you, you know, what's still a challenge to you in terms of playing this position in the Canadian Football League as opposed to where you have been playing football?
Yeah, you know, obviously, you know, there's so many there's coverages, right? But there's a lot of intricacies in the coverages, right? Having 12 people on the field, right? You get an NFL playbook, it's about 400 pages long. You get a playbook in the CFL, it's about 700. So, you know, that shows you right there that adding another person and all these different types of motions and, you know, different ways receivers run routes and intertwine with each other. I think that's the biggest thing, is knowing where your guys are, right? And especially up here, a lot more man cover or a lot more zone coverage. You know, we just played a team that played a little bit more man, but in zone coverage, you have to have the receivers all on point, right? And they have to paint the picture. So, you know, there's a lot of exterior things, especially in Toronto, that can throw people off of their game. But I think, you know, at adjusting to this game, because we have, you know, so many guys that are from south of the border, and guys up north have obviously played the game a little longer than everybody, but everybody has to be on the same page. You know, if one person is in the wrong spot and the defense dictates, you know, you have to throw here, and he's not there, then, you know, everything breaks down. You got to adjust on the fly, right? So you only get 2 downs. That's the biggest thing. You got to stay ahead of the sticks, right? And these first 3 games, we sometimes fell behind the sticks, and that's the thing, is first down has to be a positive play, whatever that is, so it gives us a chance on second down.
You've got one of the most legendary quarterbacks as a mentor in your uncle, Jim Kelly. He was in attendance on Monday night. What's it like having him around? Does he give you a little tip and tricks in being, you know, a legend in your own right?
Yeah. You know, he understands that it's a different game for sure. Second, I think he always loves harping on take what the defense gives you, right? And I felt like last game I definitely did that. You know, sometimes when it wasn't there the week before, I tried forcing it, right? And you know, I got myself picked twice. So, you know, that's the thing as a quarterback. You got to see the defense. You got to feel the defense. You got to feel everybody's dropping deep because, hey, they don't need to play up, or hey, they're already down so much. They're not trying to let any more points go on the board, so they're just playing prevent, right? So, you know, you just got to understand the game, have good eyes, and trust your reads, like Coach always says.
Can you feel the marketing machine sort of building behind you? I mean, the Argos are not, I don't know if they're the most important CFL franchise in terms of like revenue and all that stuff. Like, it's Toronto, but there's also other teams that maybe draw more at the gate. But whoever's playing quarterback for the Toronto Argonauts is immensely important to this league. So do you feel that yourself?
You know, I don't feel it just because, you know, I go about my business every day as if I'm the starter or not the starter. So, you know, I think at the end of the day, if fans want to see an electric football team, offense, defense, special teams, at any point we can strike up the band, we call it, and score touchdowns at any given moment. This is where you want to be. And, you know, I just think that we have so many electric guys on the field all the time. And, you know, if I was a fan and not really ever being to a CFL game or knowing about it, I'd want to go because there's going to be some points put up on the board.
Tell us a little bit, your starting tailback, AJ Ouellette. I saw some footage of him involved in a bit of an independent wrestling scene. He looks like a character. Can you tell us about the character that is AJ Ouellette? Yeah,
he is one of the hardest working guys I've ever seen in my life. He is hands down the best teammate I've had. He is just a fantastic overall human being. I can't say enough good things about who he is off the field. On the field, obviously, you guys have seen he's just a dedicated guy. He loves the game. He wants to run people over. He wants to make people miss. He wants to win. And, I don't know what else embodies a better teammate than everything that AJ Olette brings to our team, and what he went through last year, how they, cut him, and then he was on his way out, and, they brought him back. I just think that, he didn't hold any grudges over anybody either. And I definitely respect the shit out of that for that. So I just think that him being who he is, coming from a blue-collar family in Ohio, man, that kid loves football.
We're talking to Chad Kelly, Argos quarterback, Grey Cup champ. Okay, so you also got a new face. I got to ask about my former classmate at Dartmouth, Flo. He joined the team this year. How's he doing, my buddy Flo? I
will say this. Everybody who's hearing this right now, that man is Von Miller. He is Von Miller.
Nice.
So, I told Coach last year, he said when we were playing Calgary, hey, this is the best player on the field. And then, we go through the whole season. I'm looking back and I'm like, man, that guy was the best player on the whole defense side of the ball all last year out of all the teams. And for us to get a guy of his caliber on our team, he's the first one in, last one to leave. He's the hardest working guy on the field as well. I just, I think he is so deserving of being the best player in this league, and he's only getting better. His bend ability is crazy. He watches so much film. He understands where the quarterback's going to be on all his drops. He just understands his opponent very well, and I think that's what makes him such a great player.
All right, last one for you, Chad. I mean, you've been, Toronto's been at an arm's reach for you as a guy who's from Buffalo, but now living in the city, being here for a while now, do you have a favorite thing about living in Toronto?
It's very close to the water. That is one thing that I love. Just being around the water. Obviously, this whole city is surrounded by Lake Ontario, and I think hanging out by the water gives you a whole bunch of more energy than you normally have, and I believe in that, and I just think that being in this city with such great culture and food and by the water, it doesn't get much better than this.